Hello open-world racing fans and welcome to Forza Horizon 4. The latest update brings improved graphics that look beautiful, fully unlocked frame rates on PC, HDR support, and generally excellent performance. There's a whole lot to like and very little to complain about this round. Let's start with the good news. I've run extensive tests, and most gaming PCs should have little difficulty hitting 60 FPS or more with the right settings. The game does use DirectX 12 and you'll need up-to-date drivers. So as an example, I wasn't able to get it running at all on Intel integrated graphics. However, every dedicated graphics card I tried from the lowly GTX 1050 and RX 560 and up ran well. High-end PCs meanwhile should be able to run the Ultra preset at 4K with an RX Vega or GTX 1080 or better graphics card, and GTX 1080 Ti and faster cards even have a few extreme settings available, though it's definitely a case of diminishing returns. As for CPU requirements, even budget processors like the Core i3-7100 and Ryzen 3 2200G easily break 60 FPS with an appropriate GPU, so almost any reasonable PC can handle Forza Horizon 4. If there's one issue that some will have, it's the Windows Store requirement, which remains the least friendly of the digital gaming distribution services. It works, but download speeds tend to be slower, and with no easy way to transfer files between one PC and another, I got to experience the joys of downloading from the Windows Store 7 times during the past week. Thankfully, most users won't need to do that, and Forza Horizon 4 is good enough that it's worth enduring the pain of the Windows Store. The hardware for our performance analysis testing is provided by MSI, with current generation MSI motherboards and graphics cards, plus a few older models included as reference points. The primary test system uses an Intel Core i7-8700K Coffee Lake processor, overclocked to 5 GHz, and I've also tested with numerous AMD Ryzen and other Intel CPUs. I'm using the latest 411.70 drivers from NVIDIA and 18.9.3 for AMD cards. Forza Horizon 4 has an extensive set of graphics options, 19 individual settings to be precise. The full article on PCGamer.com digs into the details more, but the short summary is that only 6 options cause more than a 5% difference in performance when comparing maximum to minimum quality, and 5 more cause about a 3% change in performance. That will vary somewhat depending on your PC's hardware, but the primary settings to tweak if you're looking to improve frame rates are reflection quality, world car level of detail, MSAA, SSR quality, SSAO quality, and shadow quality. The settings that cause a smaller but still measurable difference are shader quality, dynamic geometry quality, lens effects, FXAA, and night shadows. The remaining 8 settings can be safely set to maximum or high quality with little regards to their impact on performance. For the benchmarks, I'm using the medium and ultra presets, and Forza Horizon 4 comes with a great built-in benchmarking utility so you can easily compare your performance with my results. And with that said, let's get to the benchmarks. Medium quality is often the best compromise between image quality and performance on lower tier hardware, and Forza Horizon 4 is no exception. Every GPU tested breaks the 60 FPS barrier for average frame rates, though you'll need something closer to a 1050 Ti to keep minimums above 60. Generally speaking, and this is something that holds throughout my testing of Forza Horizon 4, AMD GPUs outperform their NVIDIA counterparts. The RX 560 and GTX 1050 start evenly matched, and the same goes for the RX 570 4GB and the GTX 1063GB, but with faster GPUs and at more demanding settings, Team Red claims a clear victory. The Vega 64 even beats the GTX 1080 Ti at lower settings. For extreme budget builds, AMD's Ryzen APUs prove their value yet again. 1080p medium at 30 FPS is definitely playable, and dropping the resolution or quality will boost frame rates quite a bit. Unfortunately, periodic dips in frame rate do cause the minimums to sit around 30 FPS even when using the very low profile at 720p. Intel GPUs, on the other hand, weren't even able to run Forza Horizon 4 with the current drivers. Bumping to ultra quality doesn't improve the visuals much, though frame rates take about a 25% hit. Using the extreme settings, you can drop performance another 20%, but the visual improvements are even less visible. You want at least 4GB of VRAM for the ultra preset as well. Cards with 3GB or less memory don't do so well. In our head-to-head, the RX 588GB leads the 1066GB by 10%, and while the 1050 Ti beats the RX 560, it also costs quite a bit more. Outside of the new and ultra-expensive RTX 2080 and 2080 Ti, AMD's Vega 64 claims top honors. The Vega 56 also beats the 1080, while the RX 580 8GB comes up just short of the GTX 1070. The RX 570 and above continue to run well, easily breaking 60 FPS. For those with a high refresh rate display, even 120 FPS is doable with an RX Vega or better. 1440p Ultra is often pretty rough on mid-range GPUs, but Forza Horizon 4 is highly optimized and does much better than its predecessor. RX 580 and GTX 1060 average more than 60 FPS, while higher spec GPUs like the GTX 1070 and RX Vegas 56 are hitting 90 to 100 FPS. And if you've gone all in on your graphics card with an RTX 2080 or 2080 Ti, even 120 FPS is within striking distance. Looking at the full list of tested graphics cards, the only major change is that the GTX 1080 Ti finally squeaks past the RX Vega 64. Raw throughput wins out at this point, though we're not really hitting CPU limits. Most CPUs are able to hit 115 FPS at 1440p, but Nvidia's older architectures don't appear to handle this workload quite as efficiently as AMD's GPUs or the new Turing RTX cards. One of the impressive accomplishments of Forza Horizon 4 is that, given how good it looks, 4K Ultra remains playable at more than 60 FPS on multiple graphics cards for a change. AMD still doesn't have a card that can beat the GTX 1080 Ti, never mind the RTX 2080 Ti, but in terms of frame rate per dollar, the Vega GPUs are solid offerings. And with the graphics card shortages now behind us, you can find all the GPUs selling at or below MSRP. Well, not quite all, as the RTX 2080 cards still carry a hefty price premium. Not surprisingly, the new RTX 2080 and 2080 Ti lead the pack, but even the GTX 1080 and Vega 56 average more than 60 FPS, albeit with dips below that mark. Dropping down to high or medium quality can boost frame rates by 25 to 35% as well, without a huge drop in visual fidelity, which means the 1070 and above can legitimately handle Forza at 4K. For CPU testing, to emphasize the difference between the various CPUs, I'm using Nvidia's new RTX 2080. I could have used the 2080 Ti instead, but the price is more than what you'd pay for a complete mainstream gaming PC, so I've skipped that for now. The 2080 is a bit faster than the GTX 1080 Ti I've used previously, but the important thing is that a slower GPU would reduce the performance gap. At 1080p using the Ultra preset, even with an $800 graphics card, there's really not much separation between the various CPUs. The Core i3-8300 has lower minimum FPS, but average frame rates are within 8%. And only the Ryzen 3 2200G and the Core i3-7100 would hold back faster graphics cards. Looking at the other tested settings, even at 1080p medium there's almost no separation between Intel's i5-8400 and an overclocked i7-8700K. Hyperthreading does seem to limit performance a bit, so the upcoming i7-9700K may end up being the ultimate gaming processor for a while. AMD's Ryzen 5 and Ryzen 7 CPUs are a bit slower, particularly at 1080p medium, but with minimums staying above 100 FPS in all cases, it's not something to really worry about. For gaming notebooks, while there are some 1440p and 4K options available, I generally recommend sticking with a 1080p display. High refresh rate solutions like the GT73VR's 120Hz display are another option that I really enjoy. Most games just aren't cut out to handle high resolutions on mobile GPU solutions, but Forza Horizon 4 proves to be the exception. Everything from the GS63VR with its GTX 1060 to the Mammoth GT73VR easily breaks 60 FPS, and dropping settings a notch or two starts to bring CPU bottlenecks into the picture. Compared to the desktop GPUs, the mobile solutions end up 3 to 10% slower at the Ultra preset. In short, all three mobile GPUs can easily handle Forza Horizon 4. Once again, thanks to MSI, who provided PCGamer with the hardware and sponsorship for these performance analysis articles. I used MSI's Z370 Gaming Pro Carbon AC motherboard with the Intel CPUs, and the X470 Gaming M7 AC motherboard for Ryzen processors. Both systems use 16GB of DDR4 3200 CL14 memory with the game loaded from Samsung SSDs in all cases. I can't say that I like using the Microsoft Store, but if there's a silver lining, it's Microsoft's commitment to releasing all of its first-party games on both PC and Xbox. A gaming PC might seem like a huge investment compared to a console, but if you already own a PC built within the past few years, really, it's just a matter of adding a decent graphics card. Forza Horizon 4 on PC ends up being one of the best sandbox racing games around, and I'm happy to see it get a proper PC port. Thanks for watching.